Juliette's arrest may be the most useful place she could possibly be right now. At the end of Grey Goo, she deliberately walked into Judicial and allowed herself to be captured. Camille's people were waiting for her. Shirley was in danger. The safeguard pipe still had to be reached, and Juliette had a choice: keep running and risk Shirley getting caught, or make herself the target. She chose herself. That sounds like a sacrifice. I think it may be something more. Because if Juliette had simply wanted to protect Shirley, she could have stayed hidden and let the others continue the mission. Instead, she walked directly into the one building where some of the most important pieces of Silo 18's power structure are now concentrated. And who was already sitting in a judicial cell? Robert Sims. That detail could matter far more than it first appeared. Robert has spent this season trapped between Camille, the voice, and his belief that Juliette is trying to save the silo. Camille has already used Judicial to isolate him because he refused to give up Juliette's plan. Now, Juliette and Robert are in the same place. That gives us a very different way to look at the arrest. Juliette may have just put herself inside the enemy's headquarters with one of Camille's biggest internal problems sitting beside her. And Camille has no idea what Juliette actually knows. That last part matters. Earlier in the season, Juliette's memory loss made her look vulnerable. She came back from outside unable to remember huge parts of her life, and the people around her had to figure out whether she was recovering, pretending, or being manipulated. But the show has spent several episodes showing that memory itself has become part of the war. Camille has been putting vitamin D+ into the water because she believes removing people's memories can stop the rebellion. The voice has given her a way to frame that as protection. If people forget the events that made them angry, then perhaps they stop resisting. Juliette's problem is the opposite. She needs information. She needs people to remember. And now she's sitting inside Judicial, where the people controlling information have concentrated their power. That makes the location of her arrest extremely interesting, because Judicial isn't just where Camille keeps prisoners. It's where the silo's surveillance, enforcement, records, and secrets intersect. Juliette has spent most of the series trying to find information from the outside of that system. She searched offices. She questioned people. She followed clues through mechanical and IT. She had to rely on individual people willing to risk everything to give her access. Now she has been placed inside the system itself. And there is another reason I think Juliette may have wanted this. Look at what she did immediately before surrendering. She realized Shirley had been sent toward the wrong panel. That was a serious problem because the rebels were trying to reach the safeguard pipe and Camille's forces were already waiting for them. Juliette understood that the operation was compromised. So she redirected Shirley and made herself the person Judicial had to deal with. That means the arrest accomplished two things at once. It removed Shirley from immediate danger, and it gave the rest of the group more time to work. But there may be a third benefit. It put Juliette close to Robert Sims. Robert is one of the few people inside Judicial who has already rejected Camille's version of events. He knows Juliette's mission is about saving people. He has also been punished for refusing to cooperate with Camille. If those two compare what they know, they could potentially expose weaknesses in Camille's position. And Camille has a much bigger problem than Juliette. She thinks she understands what the voice wants. That's dangerous, because Camille's decisions throughout these recent episodes have depended on information coming through the system. She believes the voice can protect Anthony. She believes the memory treatment can prevent another rebellion. She believes Juliette's plan could put the entire silo at risk. But look at what happened with Lukas and Kennedy. The voice treated them as neutralized. Then Kennedy's voice came back over the radio. That should have been a warning. The voice's information was incomplete, misleading, or deliberately controlled. And if Camille can be given false information about people outside Judicial, what stops the same thing from happening with Juliette? This is where Juliette's arrest becomes much more interesting. Camille believes she has finally removed the person most capable of stopping her, but Juliette may have voluntarily entered the one place where Camille's control is easiest to study, and there is an even bigger reason to suspect that Juliette's surrender could be part of a larger plan. The safeguard pipe is still the real objective. Everything else is secondary. The rebels now know that the poison isn't some mysterious environmental force. Silo 17 showed them exactly what happened when its safeguard system was triggered, and Gwen's sacrifice revealed how the pipe could be sealed. That changes the problem for Silo 18. They don't need to understand the entire system before acting. They need to reach one specific piece of it. Juliette has already helped identify that location. So if she can keep Camille and Judicial focused on her, Shirley and the others may have a better chance of reaching the correct panel. That makes the arrest strategically useful, even if Juliette never touches a single computer. But I think there is another layer. Juliette has spent years learning that the people in power are often watching the wrong thing. Bernard watched mechanical. Judicial. Judicial watched the rebels. The voice watches the silo, and Juliette has repeatedly survived by understanding what everyone else assumes she will do. Her surrender fits that pattern. Everyone sees a captured Juliette. The question is what Camille thinks she has captured, because if Camille believes she has finally contained Juliette, she may become less careful around her. That could give Juliette access to information she could never have reached while running through the silo. And Robert may be the person who helps her get it. There is also something fitting about Juliette ending up in Judicial at this exact moment. For years, Judicial represented the system that hunted her. Now Judicial is fractured. Robert is imprisoned. Camille is answering to the voice. The rebellion is operating inside the same building that once represented absolute authority. The institution is still standing, but the people inside it are fighting over what it should actually serve. And Juliette has just walked straight into the middle of that conflict, which makes me think the next question isn't whether Juliette can escape. It's what she can learn before she does. There is one detail that could make this theory even more important. Camille may believe Juliette is the immediate threat. The voice may have a completely different priority. That's been one of the strangest parts of Season 3. Camille has been acting as though saving Silo 18 means preserving the existing order. The voice has encouraged that belief by giving her a solution that sounds almost reasonable on the surface. Control the population's memories before the rebellion becomes impossible to contain. But Juliette's objective has always been different. She wants people alive and capable of choosing what happens next. Those goals can overlap for a while. They eventually have to collide. And that's why Juliette, being inside Judicial, could create a serious problem for Camille. If Juliette learns exactly how the memory treatment is being distributed, how the water system is being used, or how the voice is communicating with Camille, she could attack the plan at its source. She doesn't need to defeat Camille in a physical confrontation. She needs information. That has always been Juliette's strongest weapon. Think about the safeguard itself. For most of the series, the silos were built around the idea that the outside world was the main threat. Then Juliette crossed the hill. She discovered Silo 17. She saw what happened to people who believed the outside was safe. Now we know the more immediate danger comes from inside the Silo's own system. The poison is controlled, the memory loss is controlled, the information is controlled, and Judicial is sitting right in the middle of that. So Juliette's arrest puts her closer to the machinery she needs to understand. There is also the possibility that Robert becomes essential here. Robert knows Camille better than almost anyone. He knows how she thinks, what she feared, and what the voice has been telling her. More importantly, he has already reached the point where he is willing to oppose her when he believes Anthony is being used as leverage. If Juliette can convince Robert that Camille's plan will not actually save their son, he becomes far more than another prisoner. He becomes a source of information, and potentially an ally inside Judicial. That would create a very strange situation. Camille would be outside trying to stop Juliette. Juliette and Robert would be inside trying to undermine Camille. And neither side could be completely certain who the voice was actually manipulating. That's exactly the kind of situation where Juliette tends to do well. There is another possibility though, and this is where the theory becomes more speculative. What if Juliette's arrest wasn't planned from the beginning? What if she simply recognized an opportunity when Shirley was threatened? I actually think that is more likely than Juliette having some elaborate master plan. The show hasn't given us evidence that she arranged the arrest in advance. What it has shown is that Juliette makes extremely fast decisions when someone else is about to be hurt. So she wanted this, maybe too strong if we mean she planned every detail, but she could absolutely have recognized that getting arrested was useful. That distinction mattered. The theory doesn't require Juliette to be 10 steps ahead of everyone. She only needs to understand one thing. Being the target gives everyone else room to move. And that's exactly what happened. Shirley survived. The rebels still have a chance to reach the correct safeguard pipe. Juliette is taken somewhere she can potentially gather information. And Camille gets the satisfaction of believing she has finally won. That last part could be the most useful piece of all, because Camille's confidence may become a weakness. She has already shown that she trusts the voice enough to make decisions that affect the entire silo. If she believes Juliette is finished, she may stop treating her like an unpredictable threat. That gives Juliette room to work. And there is a fascinating parallel here with Bernard. Bernard spent years believing control came from knowing what everyone else was doing. Then Juliette kept finding the gaps in his system. Camille is now in a similar position. She has access to Judicial. She has the support of the voice. She has control over information. And she still may have no idea what Juliette is actually trying to accomplish. That's why I don't think the cell itself is the important part of the cliffhanger. The important part is what happens while Juliette is there. If she gets access to Robert's knowledge, Judicial records, information about the voice, voice, or even a better understanding of how Camille is receiving instructions, her arrest could become the turning point of the entire conflict. And there is one more thing I would keep an eye on. Camille has been trying to make the people of Silo 18 forget. Juliette has just entered the place that stores the silo's history. Those two ideas are directly opposed. One side is erasing memory. The other side is collecting them. That feels very deliberate for a show that has spent so much time asking what happens when an entire civilization is built around controlled information. Juliette may not need a weapon when she gets out of Judicial. She may need the truth. And if she can find it inside the very institution that arrested her, Camille may discover that capturing Juliette was the worst mistake she could have made. So I don't think the ending of Grey Goo necessarily means Juliette has been removed from the fight. It may mean she has been placed in a position where she can finally see the enemy's side of the board. She protected Shirley. She bought the others time. And now she's sitting in a cell with Robert Sims while the people outside try to stop the safeguard. If Juliette can turn that cell into an information source, her arrest could end up doing exactly what Camille never intended. It could bring the rebellion closer to the heart of the system controlling Silo 18. And that makes the thumbnail line, "She wanted this," a little more interesting. Because maybe Juliette didn't want to be arrested. Maybe she wanted what the arrest gave her.